Okay, so in this segment, we're going to venture back to 1000 BC. Seems like it's our favorite time to go to, and we're going to find out what the horse sacrifice, this Ashvamedha, would have looked like to early Vedic communities. Now, all the details that we're going to be talking about are again coming from one single text, the Rigveda Samhita. This is what we had looked at when we were talking about Vedic mythology, if you recall. What the Rigveda Samhita tells us is that the horse sacrifice in the early period was a lot more simple and a lot more straightforward than the rich pageantry and kind of complexities of this ritual in the late Vedic classical version. There wasn't this year-long period where the horse has to roam around and the armies go and defend it. And it probably makes sense since the tribes were just basically struggling to survive for the most part through kind of rudimentary farming and animal husbandry. There wasn't probably a whole lot of time for all that kind of roaming around. And there also doesn't seem to be any hint of that sexualized stuff that the queens had to do or any of their obscene banter with the priests. The idea was that these two elements, the roaming horse and the obscene stuff with the queens, got added in later, after about 1000 BC, when the whole thing turned into kind of a grand public state ritual. In the early Vedic period, before 1000 BC, the purpose of the whole sacrifice seems to have been the focus was on the king to be able to get health, wealth, and offspring, and to kind of show off his royal power, his sovereignty over his subjects. We'll talk more about this connection to political power in other segments. The Rigveda hymn that discusses the sacrifice are incredibly graphic in their depiction of the slaughter and dismemberment of the horse. The poet doesn't let us avert our eyes, and even now, thousands of years later, the description can make us cringe. Why was it so gruesome? Maybe because these poets were trying to work through the inescapable guilt that comes with this kind of ritualized violence. We know that we're harming this poor horse who doesn't deserve it. He's our loyal and steadfast companion, our most cherished possession, just a really incredible animal that we don't usually slaughter, right? We're clearly causing this horse pain. We're doing something really disturbing by tearing it to pieces. The hymn allows us to come to terms with the violence of the sacrifice and starts to establish an underlying truth, a ruta, that the horse actually doesn't die. It looks like he dies, but Agni is actually taking him alive into heaven, where he gets to live forever with the other horses in Indra's stables. That's how I'm interpreting it. Anyway, let's just walk through one of the horse sacrifice hymns, Rigveda 1:162, and see what we see. Let not Mitra, Varuna, Aryaman, Ayu, Indra, Lord of the Rubhus, and the Maruts disregard us, when we shall proclaim the heroic deeds of the prize-winning god-born racehorse at the ritual distribution. Now the poet's going to move on to the first thing that happens, where a goat gets sacrificed before everything else. When they lead the gift that is the goat, held fast in front of the horse, which is decked out with a fresh garment and with family treasure, facing well forward, constantly bleating, the goat representing all forms passes into the fold of Indra and Bhushan. This billy goat, belonging to all the gods, is led in front along with the prize-winning horse as Bhushan's portion. When they lead the goat as the pleasing fore-offering, along with the steed, it is Twashtar himself who stimulates him for the deed that brings good fame. When the sons of Manu lead around the horse to be offered 3 times along that path that goes to the gods, in proper order, then the goat, Bhushan's portion, goes first, announcing the sacrifice to the gods. Now the priests are told, you have to eat the goat, not the horse. Right? Eat the goat, not the horse. The Hotar, the Advaryu, the expiator, the fire kindler, the handler of the pressing stones, the well-inspired reciter. With this sacrifice well prepared and well offered, fill your bellies. The poets now are going to turn to discussing what happens to the horse and how he's actually going to go straight to heaven. When he went forth at the same time, my thought was produced, when the straight-backed horse went forth to the regions of the gods. The inspired seers cheer him on, we have made him well connected to the prospering of the gods. Notice this well-connectedness. This is a bandhu, right? He then states that the horse's accessories are also ritually being sent to heaven to join the horse. The lead rope of the prize winner, the harness of the steed, the halter on his head and his bridle, and the grass brought up into his mouth. Let all this of yours be among the gods. Now the imagery is going to get kind of graphic. Just as a note here before I read it, the Queller priest is how Jameson and Brereton are translating what I've been calling the pacifier, the Shamitar. He's the guy who slaughters the animal. What of the horse's flesh a fly has eaten, or what is smeared on the sacrificial post, or on the axe? What is on the hands of the Queller priest, and what is on his nails? Let all this of yours be also among the gods. The contents of his belly that bloats up, the odor of his raw flesh, let the Queller priests make that well done, and let them cook the ritual offering until it's cooked to readiness. What runs down from your leg as it's being cooked by the fire when you have been impaled on the spit, let that not stick to the ground nor to the grasses. Let it be given to the gods who are eager for it. Those who inspect the prize winner when cooked, and who say about him, it smells good, take it off the fire. And those who draw near in hopes of the share of the meat of the steed, let the applause also of those urge us on. This is actually kind of an ambiguous verse, suggesting that maybe some participants wanted to eat the horse meat and were urging it to be served to them. Ultimately, though, the poet's going to tell them not to eat the horse, but to send him completely all of his blood and guts and everything up to heaven where he can join the gods. The probe for the meat-cooking cauldron, the cups for the pouring of broth, the covers of the bowls that keep them warm, the hooks and the baskets are in attendance all around the horse. The gear that made him set his stride come to halt and turn aside, and the foot fetter of the steed and what he drank and the fodder he ate. Let all this of yours be also among the gods. Let the fire that smells of smoke not besmirch you. Let the blazing hot cauldron not topple over. The one sacrificed, sought out, and greeted when the cry, Washat, is made, that horse do the gods receive. The mantle they spread out for the horse, the overmantle, and the gold trappings that are for him, the harness and the foot fetter, all these his own dear things, hold the steed fast among the gods. Then the poet now offers a kind of gentle apology, really, to the horse if he's been mistreated while he's here on earth. It's an interesting part of the verse. If in riding you, anyone goaded you with his heel or with a whip, along with too much, come on, come on, I make all these sweet for you with a sacred formulation, as priests sweeten the oblations by ladling of the oblation at the rites. Now, we get to the dismemberment of the horse next. Now notice the care with which the legs of the horse are especially being sent off to heaven so that he'll be able to reuse them when he gets there. The axe converges on the 34 ribs of the prize-winning horse, who has connections with the gods. Arrange his legs undamaged into patterns, and carve them up joint by joint, having called them out in order. There's one carver of Twashtar's horse, and two to hold him fast. Such is the proper way. The sacrificial portions I make from your legs, according to the proper order, just those lumps, one after another, do I offer in the fire. Let your own dear life breath not burn you as you go along. Let the axe not bring the parts of your body to a standstill. Let a greedy man who is no carver, skipping steps, not make your legs damaged with a knife gone awry. So now we're coming to the end of the hymn, where the poet now tries to reassure the horse. Maybe he's also trying to reassure himself a little bit that the horse is not really dead and that he's going directly to heaven due to the power of the Vedic mantras that are being chanted and the ritual itself. There's a whole lot of guilt and remorse kind of swirling around the poet's head, I feel like. And maybe a kind of deeper sense of wonder also at the kind of incredible sacred power of this ritual, that it can enable this horse, even though we've just slaughtered it and dismembered it, to become immortal in heaven. Truly in this way you do not die, nor are you harmed. You go to the gods by paths that are easy to travel. The two follow bays of Indra and the two dappled mares of the Maruts have become your yoke mates. The prize-winning horse has taken his place at the chariot pole of the Ashvin's donkey. Let the prize winner win for us a mass of good cattle and good horses, male children, and all prospering wealth. Let Aditi make guiltlessness for us. Remember, Aditi is the mother figure among the gods. Let the horse, accompanied by our oblations, win sovereignty for us. So that's the old form of the Vedic horse sacrifice as it's reflected in one hymn from the Rigveda. There are a couple of things kind of worth taking away, other than the kind of gruesome imagery that you may or may not appreciate. One is that the horse sacrifice was still a really big deal in that early Vedic ritual world, as it involved the slaughter of one of the most prized possessions that a Vedic community would have, its horse. Right? And two, it had something to do ultimately with a ruler's sovereignty, giving it a ritualized religious foundation to his political power. So let's take a break here, and when we come back, we'll look at how this early version of this Ashvamedha got transformed into a different kind of public spectacle in the late Vedic period. So see you